Hey, geographers, it's Angela. How are you? Listen, looking forward to this next module, and it's regarding my hometown weather and climate, and it's 2 weeks long. Now, remember, I know it's a bit of a challenge shuffling through both of the Canvas shells. So, as I explained at the beginning of the semester, there's one Canvas shell, the lecture, and that is designed for the learning aspect. So, really take a lot of time in the learning process. Many times when we're learning online, we want to just jump and do the assignments, and I completely understand that. Now, think of it as if we were in a lab doing this in person. At first, we would be working for quite a good chunk of time. Remember, these labs are between 3 and 4 hours when we're in person. And what you would be doing is we'd be spending a lot of time in the learning aspect and practicing. And that is what is for the lab lecture Canvas shell is for. Really take a lot of time looking over those lectures. There's always going to be a lecture in the lab lecture shell. So for this week, the lab lecture shell is showing you the following. So remember, when you go on there, you go and have a Canvas shell. One says lecture and one says assignments. So click on the lecture first. Sometimes we're not going to understand the lecture. What I tell my students to do is take notes while you're listening. I don't know about you guys, but even when I go through something one time, I don't really always learn everything. So take time to go through it a second time. That is the luxury of being able to have this content online. So I have this lecture here for you. It's on weather and climate. Believe me, taking the time to go through this will really make your lab activity go so much smoother. Take the time to go through this lecture and really learn about the difference between what is climate and what is weather and how are they different. They are very different. This lecture also goes through and tells us about what a climograph is. So here's an example of the difference between climate and weather, right? Then we go into learning about what a climograph is. It's important to learn about this and really get this down because what are we going to be doing for the lab activity for this 2 week module? We are going to be using and learning and posting climographs. So then we go, after we've learned the material in our lab lecture, then go into your lab assignment. And that is when you click on the module, the current module, and it will take you to what you're going to be doing. And that is your hometown weather and climate lab. Here you go ahead and you click on the link for the lab. Here are the instructions for the lab. So you do your lecture in the lecture portion of your Canvas shell, and then you come and you click on the actual lab assignment. And here it is. This was arranged in a 2 week module because it's almost, not quite, but almost double the work. So this is a lab, and you should be spending about 3 hours a week on a geography, a physics, a biology, a chemistry lab. Even though it's one unit, you're still going to be spending a good 3 weeks. So if you aren't and you're struggling, reach out to me. I've got my phone number online, I've got office hours, and I meet with quite a few students over the phone, over Zoom, at the times that they are available. So please reach out to me. You will be going through this hometown lab. Some of my students are saying that it should be 7 pages. It's not necessarily 7 pages. All you're doing is 7 parts. The reason why it seems like a lot of pages is because you're going to be uploading or putting a screenshot of a tropical climograph, of a climograph for LA. These climographs take up a lot of space. And so the only reason why it's called 7 pages is it makes it a little easier to spend one page on each part. This is not 7 pages of writing. It's basically when you're talking about charts and graphs and maps, they take up a lot of space. And you know what? Thank goodness they do, because we learn a lot by looking from maps and graphs. Words help, but visuals, gosh darn it, they are a lot of fun as well. So you're going to be going through these 7 parts. Part one encourages you to go through some of these websites and look for the climographs, look for average temperatures in certain areas, average precipitation, which could be rain, snow, any sort of water, either frozen or in liquid form, and also seasonal differences. Seasonal differences means that in different parts of the world, certain cities get rain for 6 months, and other parts they get rain for the other 6 months. Some places get lots of rain at one time and then no rain for the rest of the year. Some places get a little bit of rain all throughout the year, kind of like the southeastern United States. In Southern California, when do we get our rain? Well, typically our climate is we are supposed to get rain in the wintertime. Now our climate zones, they're shifting a little bit, so we're getting a little bit more tropical in Southern California. We are technically a subtropical location, but now the climate is shifting to a little bit more tropical. So I'm sure you've noticed that we get a little bit more rain in the summertime and a little bit more rain in the spring. So you're going to explore some of these websites. Then in part two, you're going to be clicking on this link, and then you can actually search by city. You can search by Los Angeles, and it's going to show you a climograph, weather and precipitation patterns for these areas, really any area that you want to click into. So then in part three, part four, part five, part six, and part seven, you're going to be doing pretty much the same thing except for different locations. So for part three, you're going to be uploading a climograph for LA. You're going to talk about the annual temperature, average temperature, and precipitation and seasonal differences. Then you're going to move on to what a tropical climograph looks like. Then you're going to move on and talk about what represents a polar climograph and answer the questions. Then you're going to move to a mid-latitude location. Mid-latitude is a big, big zone. It encompasses places like San Francisco. It encompasses places like Kansas City, Chicago, Portland, Oregon, Washington, D.C. You can pick from any of those locations. There are also mid-latitude locations in the southern hemisphere as well as the northern hemisphere where we live. Part 7 asks you to talk about your hometown climograph. I know we've already done Los Angeles, but let's say, for example, that you're not from Los Angeles. Say, for example, that you could be from a place in Los Angeles that might be closer to Torrance or maybe closer to the valley. You can actually go back to this link and look up the specific location that you're from. Now, if you are from the middle of LA and the LA climograph is pretty close to where you're living, then go ahead and use the same one. Try to really hone in on where you exactly are from. It could be Wilmington, it could be Torrance, it could be Lomita. Let's see, it could be Carson. There are lots of different places in and around LA. And then what you're going to be doing is using 3 websites shown in the lab, prepare a weather forecast for LA Trade Tech in the upcoming week. Now remember, weather and climate are different. Climate is something that we study over 30 years. Weather is something we experience on a daily basis. So, the only reason why this needs to be 7 pages is again, not 7 pages of writing, 7 pages that are going to represent all of what you're looking at here. A cover page, a climograph for part 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then your answers for part 8. As always, I am here for your success. The reason why I am here is to make sure that you can achieve your goals. Please reach out to me and please let me know how I can support you into making this happen. I look forward to meeting with you.